That's terrifying.
Ouch. My wife would disagree. I hope.
You hope?
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. Yes. Oh man. Wow. Ouch.
You know what's not terrifying? It's my new background for this movie. I'm pretty proud of. I'm pretty proud of it.
Poster there.
I'm not gonna lie. I have a nice poster here. I got this at one of the Messiah College poster sales. Remember they used to have them every year?
I never bought anything from them.
I spent way too much money on those. They were very dangerous places for me.
See, there's lots of things that I love about having gone to Messiah after I was an adult and married. It was very nice because there's just lots of stuff I didn't have to worry about, and buying posters was one of them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was not the case for me. I definitely spent quite a bit on posters. Most of which I don't. I mean, I still, honestly, I have 3 up in my room right now that I bought there. So it's not like I don't use any of them. I just don't use, like maybe 15 of the 25 that I got. So.
You bought like 25 posters? Okay, look.
It's probably more like 15.
Okay. I have nothing to say about that because my room literally used to be just wall-to-wall posters. Every year, Marvel used to release, or I don't know if it was just Marvel, but one of the magazines used to release like pictures of just posters, just a magazine of posters for different superheroes. So, and they were double-sided. So I would literally buy 2 copies of that. Yeah. And then I'd be able to change out my posters. I got the idea from a friend of mine, Steve, who did the same thing. And then I also had Princess Leia, big giant poster of her. And what else did I have? Megan Fox, Audrey Hepburn, so
nice.
I had posters when I was younger, before I was married, but yeah, it was nice not having to worry about buying more posters. They did have some fun ones at Messiah, and I did look sometimes, but it was more like looking for presents than it was looking for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we did the 50th episode live stream last night.
Yes.
So by the time people hear this, that'll be a couple weeks ago, but
that
was exciting. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. And I think we ended up topping out at like 7 viewers, but still, like, it was nice that we were getting comments throughout the whole thing. We were getting questions, and it was just, it was a good change of pace as well. Like, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, there were 14 unique viewers.
Okay.
Throughout it, and then like 43 different comments or something like that. Yeah. And then still people were commenting today and viewing it today. So I saw that. So that was nice. I really enjoyed it. Like I think I texted you afterwards saying, "Man, if we could do all of our episodes like this from now on, I think I'd be okay with it."
Yeah.
We'd have to get a lot of things worked out though, because I wouldn't want it to be the side by side the whole time.
Yes, I wouldn't like to be able to
be the alternate. Yeah, I'd prefer for it to be the alternating thing. But to me, like, that would cut down on our editing time by
it would, yeah.
Like, so much. Really, and then we could just go through and cut clips out and put those up to advertise. It'd be like most of our editing would just be editing down for clips then instead of that. So
there has to be some kind of software out there, because I looked on Facebook. I couldn't find a place where Facebook Live allows you to, how it's set up that you can alternate, where it will automatically alternate on who's talking and show them. Like, that doesn't seem to be a feature of Facebook Live.
Yeah, but I know I would be able to do it with the software I was telling you about with the OBS, but it would be it'd just be a matter of setting it up that way and then and finding out ways to have 2 people on the screen at the same time. And so what I mean is having 2 people through Facebook Live viewed differently through the OBS. So it's just a matter of learning more about that. So, well, we'll see what happens. We've talked about a lot of different show ideas too. And we forgot to cover that in the show. So a couple weeks later, here you are on Dumb and Dumber, hearing stuff that we meant to talk about on the live show, but didn't. Because we want to throw ideas out there of like, Anthony recently did a solo episode where it was just him talking about a movie review. I think he did A Quiet Place too.
Yes.
So, did you have any other plans for more episodes like
I mean,
that?
I
Or
was considering doing one for F9 because I
okay,
like doing ones that I see in theaters because it keeps it really up to date, you know. So I was
yeah,
strongly considering throwing one out there for F9 because
yeah, I think you
honestly,
should.
like A Quiet Place didn't even take me because it was only a couple minutes, you know. It didn't take me that long to edit or even shoot, and yeah, like I could easily crank one out in a single afternoon if I wanted or single evening. So yeah, I would just may do one with F9.
Yeah, you should definitely go for it. I think it'll help bring stuff up. Yeah, that was the other thing because the show I had an idea of was kind of based on. Um, I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, and there was this YouTuber that I really liked, and she did a lot of live streams and things. And the thing I liked that she did was like this weekend wrap up where she talked about what she did in the game and news coming out for the game.
Hmm.
And I really like that style of show. It was better than a lot of the other shows because she kept it to around like 10, 15 minutes. And I was able to get a whole lot of information really fast. So I was kind of thinking about doing a similar thing for like movies in Hollywood where it's just like, hey, this is what we've been up to. This is what I've been up to with what I'm watching in movies. These are the movies that I'm looking forward to coming out. These are the things that I like that they're doing. These are the controversies that are going on. And this is my take on them, and just
Yeah.
that be about it. And, film that like Friday night, release it Saturday morning type deal. And then, yeah, so let us know in the comments what you think about those show ideas. Um, yeah, I've always loved the idea of like going to see a movie and then making a review
The
like
immediate
at the theater
reaction. Yeah.
immediately after, like immediate reaction of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's something to that first reaction. I often notice that my reaction changes over time as well.
Yes,
Like I can
definitely.
come out of a theater having totally enjoyed a movie, but then go back and be like, the movie kind of sucks,
Yeah, I
because
kind
you're
of
kind of high on that experience. So,
yes, that kind of happened to me with Endgame. Like I don't hate Endgame, but like right after Endgame, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Then a couple months later, I'm like, okay, it's actually not quite as good as I thought it was back when I immediately saw it. Just because I was all pumped up on the epicness of
mhm.
it, you know, and it's a combination of everything. But yeah,
I was
but
really annoyed with the time travel plot in that movie. Not gonna lie,
mhm,
the fact that they went that route to me, it's a cop out
mhm.
in many ways. Not that I didn't enjoy the movie. I love the end fight scene and everything, but I just feel like having it have been a time travel plot to fix everything.
And having a rat play a huge part in it, like the
It just
randomness of
felt
a
like I
rat,
was, yeah. It just
that
felt
didn't
like we
work for
were
me.
shortchanged on what could have happened. I mean, I like the idea of him having been trapped in it, and that's why he didn't. Not that that's why he didn't get zapped away, but like that's why no one's heard from him in 5 years. He didn't poof disappear. He was
Hmm.
like there's a difference in his experience. Like it's almost as if he did vanish, but he didn't.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I just wish they could have done it without the time travel thing. I don't mind the time jump. I think them having to wait 5 years to actually be able to fix the problem was smart, but I almost think it would have been better if they had, introduced Adam Warlock, introduced the characters who played a big role in the other in the comic part of it and gone after Thanos a second time and used the gauntlet to reverse it.
Mm.
But it is what it is.
Yeah,
They made it, it's done.
it's over.
And now we're
So
moving on to Kang the Conqueror.
yeah, phase 4. Yeah,
So, yeah. Anything else?
that's all I've got. I'm ready to jump in right here to Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, okay. Let's do the description then.
Here we go, folks. Dumb and Dumber, released December 16, 1994. I'll say right off the bat, this was Jim Carrey's year, 1994. He had The Mask
It
come out.
was.
He had Ace Ventura, Pet
Hmm.
Detective. and then he had Dumb and Dumber. 3 movies come out the same year. All 3 were box office successes.
And only 33% of them were good.
Opinion, not fact there. That'll let it be known, folks. And just to kind of put it in perspective of Jim Carrey coming in and becoming a star here, he was originally, make sure I get this right here, he was originally offered $700,000 to appear in the film. However, this offer went in the same week that Ace Ventura opened at #1 at the box office, and Carrey's agents renegotiated what he was going to be paid. He ended up getting paid $7 million. From $700,000 to $7 million.
That was half the budget for the film.
Half the film's budget. So that just kind of puts into perspective the shift in Jim Carrey's stardom from early 1994 to the end of 1994. Completely different story. He was a megastar by the end of 94.
Yeah, he ended up being the highest paid actor for a while there. He was making $20 million per movie out the gate. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a joke on King of the Hill where they asked Bobby, they were talking to Bobby about money and like, oh, how much do you think a pair of pants cost? He goes, well, these short pants I'm wearing are pretty nice, probably $100. And I was like, I know Jim Carrey makes $20 million a year, so you probably make something close to that, right, Dad? And he goes, see this, honey? He doesn't know the difference between 20,000 and 20 million.
Oh, my. And what was I going to say? I did a little research a while back on Jim Carrey's backstory. Like, he started out like he was homeless when he was growing up. Like, he started out with basically nothing. Mm-hmm. And he was Canadian. He's Canadian, I believe. And he started out with nothing and then just made his way. And yeah. This was written by the Farley brothers, Peter and Bobby Farley, and Bennett Yellen. Did not get any nominations. It grossed.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say something about that. This grossed $247.2 million on a $17 million budget, so definitely was a box office success there. I also wanted to point out some of the Farley brothers' other films. They were Kingpin. There's Something About Mary. Those were their 90s films, both of which were pretty successful. And then some in the later years, they did Hall Pass. They did a Dumb and Dumber sequel called Dumb and Dumber 2, which was, to me, very forgettable. Not a good movie, but they tried. And Peter Farley directed Green Book, which actually won Best Picture in 2018. So he kind of took a different direction with a drama with Green Book. So the synopsis here. 2 inept pals set out on a road trip to Aspen, Colorado to return a briefcase to a woman who left it at the airport. So very simple plot, very simple, but at the same time, not all movies have to have super complex plots, and they just work. And I know you'll have something to say about that later, but I'm just gonna say it right there, so it's out there.
It's out there.
And I'm just gonna be bold and say right here, this is one of my all-time favorite comedies. I wouldn't say my all-time favorite because I haven't actually picked out what's my all-time favorite comedy. I even don't know that. I just have favorites picked out. But this is definitely among them. I've first watched this probably late 2000s, so it's been a while. I just think this is Jim Carrey at his comic best. I really, really do. There's a lot of improv in the movie. We'll get into those in a little bit. One of them is when he says, "No way, we landed on the moon." And that bar scene where he looks at the newspaper that's on the wall or the article and sees it landing on the moon. So he improvised a lot in this movie, different parts. And I also want to credit, Jim Carrey gets a lot of credit for this movie, but also Jeff Daniels. The guy was he only did drama movies up until this point. He was just a dramatic actor, and he makes an extremely surprising turn here as a comedic actor here. And there's something I didn't actually know until I researched. He was told numerous times by his agents, do not do this movie. They said it will single-handedly destroy your career. Do not do this movie. You will regret it later in life. You will kill your career if you do this movie. They even even the producers of the movie itself did not actually want Jeff Daniels. They offered him an insanely low amount. I think it was
50,000.
50,000 because they
Yep.
thought, oh, he's not going to take it if it's just 50,000, and he accepted it right off immediately. Jim Carrey wanted him in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those things where I just can't picture anybody else in that role. It's Jeff Daniels. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah. The producers, as you were saying, they didn't even let him. They didn't let him film any scenes with Jim Carrey for the first like week or two of filming
That blows me
because they
away.
literally thought that he was going to be replaced. So he was pretty much filmed most of his solo stuff before for the first couple weeks, it's just so that if they had to go back and do reshoots, it wouldn't cost them too much.
It's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
I think one standout moment from Jeff. There's many great moments here from Jeff Daniels, but I think the one that gets me the most in this movie when he's talking to Mary about he has bred dogs before. He's bathed them, clipped them, he's even bred them, and he's one time successfully made a bulldog with a Shih Tzu.
Yes.
And I love how he can't hold it together. You can see in his facial expression as he's talking, he's barely holding it together, and then he finally says,
We called it a bullshit.
and his laugh after that, his laugh is insanely priceless. It's one of my favorite laughs I think I've ever heard come out of someone's mouth. He has such a great laugh in that scene. I love it. That's one of my favorite moments in the movie when he does that. Just saying. And honestly, I just think this movie has one comedic gold scene one after another. I think I won't say every moment is knockout hilarious. If there's one scene that I don't really care for in this movie, it's during the dream sequence that Lloyd has in the car when he's driving, and it gets to the part of the kitchen scene, the kitchen fight with the chef. That goes a bit over the top for me. I have never really found that scene particularly funny, so that's the only really not funny bit I really find in this movie.
The scene where he like rips out the guy's heart and
Yeah.
No,
Like I do think it's funny he puts it in a doggy bag, a doggy bag, and he falls over dead. But the whole continuous punching, and Jim Carrey's antics of him going that like, I don't really find that particularly funny. But other than that scene, like, yeah, there's not a scene I don't really like in this movie. Even like I'll just start at the opening scene. The opening scene of this movie sets the tone for the entire movie. I think it's brilliant in a way. From the titles on the screen itself, how they're misspelled. I love that. It's a little just gets you right into the movie right away. You know where this is headed. When Jim Carrey sticks his head out the window, just the way he sticks his head as far out the window as he can, and he obviously mistakes her accent for Australian instead of Austrian. And when he puts his head back in the window, he hits the window with his head, and he puts the window up and it bumps his nose. Like, just little nuances that Jim Carrey does in this, I think are brilliant. I really do. I think he was brilliant in this movie. I don't think someone else who would have played this would have done it near as well as what he did. The Polly want a cracker scene when Lloyd sells his Harry's dead parakeet to a blind kid, and he's petting the parakeet. It's this is irreverent humor, but I'm totally okay with it. This is an instance where I am totally okay with the irreverent humor in this, because they do not hold back as far as political correctness and stuff a lot of stuff that probably would not fly today. I think it's safe to assume they just go out with it, and I'm okay with it in this movie. I really am. I will say here there is an unrated version of the film, which I'm not sure. Have you seen the unrated version? Probably not. So the unrated version changes the movie quite a bit, actually. It's a lot raunchier. It's a lot more crass and crude. And I'll just give an example. The scene with Seabass in the bathroom gets a bit more explicit in the unrated version than the theatrical version that you're used to. And there's also just some extended scenes here and there. But I tend to go with the theatrical version. I think overall it's a better film, and you can kind of see when you watch the unrated, you're like, yeah, I can see why they cut this out. Like things just go on too long, or they go a bit too far with the jokes. They go a bit too far, and they make the characters borderline unlikable.
They already were.
Another great scene I like, the salt shaker scene. He hits Seabass, and he says, "Okay, who's the dead man that hit me with the salt shaker?" And how Lloyd completely sells him out by pointing at him. Oh, I love it. And when Seabass gets the table, Lloyd pretends to look out the window like he has nothing to do with it.
Like he has nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Oh, and then we need to talk about one of the great improv scenes. Hey, you want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? Guys! And the sound that comes out of Jim Carrey's mouth, it doesn't even sound human. I don't know how to this day, I don't know how he actually made that sound. I don't know.
I don't even remember the sound.
Oh, I'll put the clip in the movie episode. Don't you worry.
The episode. It's like,
yeah.
Something like that.
Sort of.
Some weird.
Has a little more bass to it, a little lower tone.
It just sounded terrible. It was just so.
The Turbolax scene, which I know this is definitely a scene this is definitely a scene I knew you would not like. The toilet scene, the Turbolax for fast, effective relief, and how he pours the entire bottle inside Harry's drink, and Harry has a bit of trouble there in the bathroom. The unrated scene actually shows Harry dumping the toilet out the window. You don't see what's in the toilet, but you show him dumping out the window. There's an example of something that's in the unrated cut versus the theatrical cut. Okay, this is the last one I have. One more great scene. Okay, here we go. When Harry and Mary are skiing, they're doing their date out on the slopes, and they're skiing from the ton frozen shtick to the snowman scene. How Harry places the nose and the eyes, and not the correct places. We'll say that. And then when they're just playing around, and Mary tosses a snowball at Harry, and Harry suddenly gets all serious, and he puts his full force into a snowball throw when he's standing like literally 5 feet away from her and completely wipes her out.
Yeah,
I just find it hilarious. And this is one thing my brother actually texted me last night after the live stream, because we talked about this briefly on the live stream. He's like, "How does Mark not like Dumb and Dumber?" He just doesn't. He doesn't understand how you don't like this movie. It's and I'll let you explain here in a second, but it's a buddy road trip film. And I love.
Yeah, it is a buddy road trip film.
It's a road trip film.
Nice about it, but
you're physically going on a journey with the characters, and I will say I feel the characters are likable in my opinion. You want to spend time with them, in my opinion, and you're going on this journey with them across the country. And
you want to spend time with them?
I do. I just think
have to stop myself from killing them.
I'll explain myself here. I just think they are lovable pals. You realize before they set out on this road trip that they really desperately need each other. You think if they don't have each other,
they each only have half a brain, less.
They need each other because they aren't the brightest. Okay, they probably didn't have much education growing up, which probably didn't help. And that if they're not together, one of them is probably, or both of them, are probably lying dead in a ditch somewhere. Like they really need to be with each other. And you can safely assume they probably didn't have great childhoods, and they probably don't have any family to turn to. Like there's no mention of any of their family in the movie, so you can kind of assume they don't have any kind of family. So they're really
way overanalyzing it, trying to make it seem intelligent when it's clearly just a stupid comedy.
It is not.
It's nothing smart here.
It is.
It's just completely foolishness.
And I think from that, you can sympathize with them for a little bit. I really do think you can. And the big break that happens in the movie, obviously, is them finding this briefcase, and Lloyd is obsessed with Mary and wants to return the briefcase to her. But it turns out that this is actually the big break they need. They need to get out of Providence because obviously their lives are going nowhere. They need to get out of Providence, Rhode Island. And this briefcase, whatever's in it, they don't even know what's in it. It's their big break that they need to get out of where they are. And so yeah, and they go on this journey, and by the end of the movie, they ultimately end up kind of in the same place, but not at the same time, because they realize that Lloyd doesn't need a woman in his life because they have each other. You know, I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story of friendship. And I know one of the
friendship.
I know one of the things that you said, I think a while back, was that the movie has no heart or nothing really emotional in it, and I completely disagree on that. I think this movie has a strong emotional pull. If you look at the scene, there's two big instances. The scene where Lloyd flat out breaks down in front of Harry when he says,
"You know what I'm sick and tired of, Harry? I'm sick and tired of having to eke my way through life. Sick and tired of being a nobody. But most of all, I'm sick and tired of having nobody."
I honestly think it's a great acting mode from Jim Carrey in general, but also for his character, the dude is a lonely guy. He clearly has nobody besides Harry in his life. It's literally just the two of them. And pursuing Mary Swanson, however silly it may be, is the kind of jolt that he needs in his life. The second scene is when they discover that Lloyd drove almost a sixth of the way across the country in the wrong direction, and Harry completely ditches him and says he's walking home. And the reaction that Lloyd has when he says,
"Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect! I guess I forgot that you never ever make a mistake!"
How he delivers that line, you can tell he's on the border of tears. He's on the borderline of tears in that moment. Like, you can tell from his reaction. It's a great acting moment, I think, from Jim Carrey. And yeah, and he's proven, obviously, in later films that he can do dramatic roles, but he infuses just a little moment in this movie. You can see it. You can see it just in that moment. And, I think his other movies like The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, he's good in dramatic roles, but I like him in both comedic and dramatic. Like I said, I'm not huge into Ace Ventura, or the second Ace Ventura. I like the first one. But yeah, he's flat out good in this movie. He really is. And then when Lloyd heroically returns for Harry on the moped, it's just a beautiful scene set to the Giggle Ants, Where I Find My Heaven, and that long shot of them driving together on the road, just the two of them. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what to say about it. The soundtrack.
You just went on about this movie for 20 minutes.
And the soundtrack to the movie also is just perfect. The 90s soundtrack, that was something that actually was really missing from the sequel, is it just didn't have a near as good of a soundtrack. A soundtrack can make a movie, and it definitely helps this movie. There's just a great 90s soundtrack to this movie. So that definitely helps as well.
You just cut out there.
Oh. Well, I was just saying, I love, the soundtrack is really, really good in this movie as well. There's several songs in it that I have in my iTunes to this day. Like it's and it just pulls all together, and I love it. All right. What's wrong with Dumb and Dumber?
What's wrong with Dumb and Dumber? Where to start? I don't even know. The cringe in this movie isn't the good Michael Scott kind of cringe. It's literally like psycho stalker, halfway expecting him to become a murderer by the end of the movie cringe, because he becomes obsessed with someone in 2 seconds. She's in his car for like a couple of minutes, and he instantly falls in love with her and becomes obsessed with her to the point where he's willing to drive across the country for something that she didn't actually lose. something she purposefully set down. And
But
it's
he
just
didn't know
like
that.
that he didn't know that, but he's also not paying attention to anything. The amount of people who got their lives effed over in the first 5 minutes of this movie just by their terrible driving, and their terrible driving, and the fact that they don't seem to have a clue about anything. Like, you want to make it as if there was this horrible past in their lives and they were abused or some terrible way that they grew up. I guess you have to do all that to actually make these characters palpable, when in reality they're just like two guys who can't get their heads out of their butts to do anything to make themselves better. And to me, that's what makes this movie awful, is the characters are just so annoying and so unaware of their own selves and their own issues that they can't even work on them properly. I mean, they finally get their big break when the suitcase pops open and they see all the money. Oh, we're just going to spend the bare minimum. And then they go out and buy a $300,000 car.
Yep.
Like, it just shows how nasty their problems were, from their little problems that they had just expanded with the money.
Yeah.
It didn't solve anything for them. They had no clue what to do with it. And like, if they weren't saved by a bunch of extra people doing stuff around them that just happened to help them, then they would have been completely dead, because that guy would have shot them. The other thing is, why is he suddenly being so violent at the end there? He's so close, the villain is, to getting everything he needs, and he just acts as like, what? He seems like he's a wealthy dude to begin with. What is he doing trying to steal money from these people? It's like he's way too close to the situation. There's no reason for him to have kidnapped that guy. I expected it to be a dog or something at the end, and then it comes up as the husband. And
It is the husband, yeah.
It is the husband, and I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what it was when I was watching it. I knew it was something. I mean, I didn't assume it was a person. I just assumed it was like her dog or somebody's, like, something foolish, because that's where the movie lended itself to. I mean, the fact that he straight trade for that van for the little tiny, like,
that's their
it just made
characters.
no sense.
That's who they
no
are.
sense. The plot for the entire movie makes no sense. Like, it's like their stupidity is contagious, because the people around them do stupider stuff than they need to. You have, I forget what his actual name is, but the gas man.
Mental. Yes.
Mental. Yeah, they're mental there. How did he not realize after spending just 5 minutes that these guys don't know what they're doing? They're just idiots off them. Why would he sit there in that car for as long as he did without doing what he needed to do to take care of the situation? Like, he's sitting there going in thinking these guys are professional hitmen. His plan to be captured by them makes no sense at all. The whole
he thought they were putting on a front. I don't know.
And then they do accidentally kill him, because they give him these freaking rat poison pills.
And even what's his name? The guy behind it all, who wants all the money. I forget his character name.
Yeah.
He thinks they're masterminds too, because they killed their bird, their parakeet, and then they kill one of ours through the whole owl incident with the bottle. So they also think they're masterminds, and I think that's what makes it all the funnier, is that these people actually believe that they're these masterminds, and really they're the complete opposite. But it just keeps working in their favor time and time again.
It works in their favor way too much. If either of them had a little bit more than a half a brain, then I think it would have worked. But it really, like, I don't know. And it's so, they're so petty with each other too. Like, he's in love with this girl who he met for 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe.
For love at first sight.
And then what's his name goes off and Harry has this whole thing with her. And then Lloyd's getting all mad at Harry as if there's some big betrayal there, when it's like, give me a break. None of you actually know her. I think that's the thing that bothers me with it. It's just so terribly cringy. And if they were trying to make some type of critique on romantic movies like that, then that would make sense. But I don't feel like they are. It's just that they're just like cringy, terrible, like ownership over a woman's affections just because you're nice to them. You know, like these terrible, you know, guys on the internet who just can't handle being rejected. And that's what I see in them. I think they just annoy me so much that I can't get into the movie. Because I'm not going to say the humor wasn't funny. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it being like, man, I guess I should be laughing at this, but I'm not. Because the characters just put me off so much from the get-go that I just can't stand them.
You did mention you liked the shaving scene. Like that, you found that funny, right?
I did find the shaving scene hilarious. That was like the only time when I actually laughed out loud.
Yeah.
During it, it was when the barber cuts him and he pretends he gets his throat cut.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, so I laughed really hard at that. But
good.
Other than that,
one laugh
the rest of the movie, like the drinking of the piss and oh my God.
It's gross. It's gross out humor in this movie.
So gross, so disturbing.
Yeah.
Get out of here. That was his first acting role too. Harlan, I forget his last name, Harlan something.
He was actually originally going to play, he was the first choice, I believe, to play Lloyd until Jim Carrey came on. So that was also interesting. But Tic Tac, sir?
It's like if one was dumb and the other wasn't as dumb.
I mean, it is Dumb and Dumber. So the question is, who's the dumb and who's the dumber? What do you think? Is it Harry or Lloyd? Who's dumb and dumber?
I would say Harry's dumb and Lloyd is dumber.
That's what I go with. That's where I stand too.
Because Harry seems to maybe have a little bit more sense.
He has a sense of direction a little more. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
The fact that like they have no money, so they go and buy a bunch of beer, which honestly I've been in that situation. I understand. Really, you know,
they get robbed by a sweet old lady on a motorized
then
car.
He gets robbed by her.
Sweet old lady.
And then they decide to go on this road trip. I don't know how it's funded. How much did he charge that kid for that dead bird? Like, because suddenly they're able to do it. I just thought they were, siphoning off the money the whole time. I thought that was going to be the reveal, is that Lloyd knew what was in the case and was siphoning off some of the money here and there. No, he had no idea. No, they were just magically somehow paying for this thing. I mean, I know gas was cheaper back then.
Yeah,
but
and they do have a budget. Harry mentions they are on a very tight budget, so they still have some money. They're not completely broke. They do have a budget on some level.
Yeah. I just no. I just couldn't get into it. It's just not. I think it's similar to me. It's similar to. I mean, because I laugh at The Office. I find the cringe of The Office hilarious. And I just don't find this to be similar. It's just, I don't find the characters to be likable. It's like, it would be like season 1 Michael Scott versus the later seasons. Because if season 1 Michael Scott carried over, it wouldn't have been a likable show. He was a terrible person. Couldn't really get into him. It was as cringy watching them in this whole movie as him trying to hit on Amy Adams in that. It's Amy Adams, right?
Yeah, the episode Hot Girl.
Amy Adams and Hot Girl episode 6 from the first season, where it's just like he doesn't get that she's going out with Jim. She's not going in the car with him. She doesn't like his jokes. She doesn't care for him as a person. He can't get that. He just didn't grasp it. So to me, that's a similar thing that's going on with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels here. And I mean, the girl, I guess, actually did like Jeff Daniels, but she was married the whole time. And that's the thing that makes it even worse, is she's going off on this kind of a date romantic thing with Harry, and she's married hoping to get her husband back. And just, it's so cringy and bizarre. And just,
I mean, she goes on a date with him, but she obviously had no intention of like pursuing him. It was more of, like her friend was saying, it was to get out and do something while they were working out this whole situation. It wasn't an actual pursuit of a romantic relationship there.
Yeah, but that there seems so like the situation of your husband being kidnapped and someone demanding a ransom. I don't know if you go out on a romantic outing with someone for that, someone who's clearly hitting on you and thinks you're single, like that to me is just, that makes her an unlikable character. So I don't know. I'm just,
and I don't know what the timeline is of how long he's been kidnapped, like how long he's been held hostage.
They're able to bring him back like real fast at the end there. That was another thing. The turnover, just poof, done. He's back. It's over. It's not that bad. I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. It's not my type of film, and I just found it to be cringy.
Yeah,
not in a not good way.
Yeah, see, I live on the cringe, whether it's the awkward humor in The Office or here. Either way, I love the cringe. I want all the cringe, and this movie fulfills that time and time again.
I mean, I've seen guys fall hard for girls, like not that they just met like that, but that they just had no chance of actually getting with, and they obsess over them. And I've seen that, and that to me is just like one of the biggest points of weakness that I see in guys sometimes, is like they get so stuck and infatuated on this one person when there's nothing there. And maybe that's more of the Christian circles that I run in, because there's such a weird view on dating. They have this whole I kiss dating goodbye mentality when it comes to relationships, that they just turn them into. So, I guess to me, maybe it's cringy because I've seen guys kind of get stuck in that focused mode on a girl. And it's just like so. And I don't think it's
bizarre. Yeah, I don't think it's unrealistic though for a guy to suddenly like meet a woman and become obsessed with her. I'm not saying I've done it, but I don't think it's unrealistic to actually pursue them across the country.
Yeah, but it's not really funny to me to watch them pursue them across the country. To me, that's the thing. I think that's the thing that I just get stuck on. Is like the plot of this movie is a stalker if it wasn't Jim Carrey and they weren't being silly along the way, and it would be just creepy. It's kind of like how people talk about, what was it, all the memes you see about like 50 Shades of Grey. If he wasn't a billionaire, this wouldn't be a love story. It's so
yeah. So that's just where we disagree. I really think they're lovable pals. Like if they weren't as codependent on each other, then it wouldn't be as good of a movie. If they didn't, like, because we find out Lloyd can barely even read. Like the guy can't even read basically. So obviously lack of education there on both their fronts, but especially on Lloyd's part. And just the fact that they have nothing and they get this jolt of something that's for the first time exciting in their life, and they just go for it. And they go on this road trip across the country, and they end up, like I said, I love how it defies the conventions of Lloyd doesn't end up with Mary. He doesn't. He ends up not getting the girl, and instead he's back with Harry, and they're okay with it. They just walk off on the road together, and that's the end. I love that.
Not quite. They get approached by that bus,
but they turn it. They
turn it down.
They're too stupid to even get on the bus. There was an alternate scene where they wanted to film them actually getting on the bus, and Jim Carrey refused to film it because he thought it would be out of character. And I'm glad he did, because if they got on the bus, it would not fit into the movie. It wouldn't make sense, because it's classic them for them to not take a sign, not take a hint, and completely miss an opportunity there. So I'm
just glad I don't have to see the second one, because even you agree that's
the second one.
I think it just follows. It just follows how the first one is. It just builds off of that, so it makes sense that it's not that great. And
the problem with the second one is they're 20 years older, and they just, to me, they lose almost all their charm when they're 20 years older. All of a sudden, it just, because they're older, it just becomes instantly a lot less funny. Even though their antics, some of them are a little bit funny, But for the most part, their antics aren't even that funny to me. And it doesn't, their age takes a lot away from it. They just don't have that same charm.
Doesn't
And
one of them have a kid or something too?
yes. From Freda Felcher, they discover that Lloyd has a kid from her, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And
So the girl that they were talking about, him.
yes, in the bathtub, at that shady motel, second honeymoon hotel, I think, when they're sitting in the bubble bath. Yeah, it's the second one just not very good. They lose all their charm, and honestly, they overacted in the movie as well. It's what I noticed. Like they were trying too hard, whereas in this movie, to me, it did not feel like they were overacting. It didn't feel like they were trying really, really, really hard to be funny. They just naturally were. Whereas in the second one, like they're overacting. They're getting to the point where they know the first movie was successful, and they want to push it even farther to make it more funny, but it actually comes across as less funny. So, yeah, don't bother with the second one.
All right. Shall we move on to trivia?
Trivia. I mean, I went through some of it already.
You don't have a quiz game for me?
Oh, that's a good point. I do. Okay, I already did the 700,000, so I already guessed that. Oh, here we go. This is kind of a yes or no question. So Jim Carrey in the movie has a chipped tooth. Is that real or is it fake?
It's real. He had he had a cap over it that he had removed
real.
For the movie.
He actually chipped one of his teeth earlier in life, and he had the cap removed to the film because he thought it would make his character look a little more deranged, a little more off, And I think it fits well. It fit because you can definitely assume at some point in his past he did something stupid and fell and chipped his tooth. You can definitely.
Fell? I was thinking got punched, but okay.
Or punched, either one. Yeah. I don't know how to phrase this into a question, so I'll just state this one. Following the release of this movie, Jim Carrey and Lauren Holly actually did get married in real life.
Yeah, they did.
But the marriage only lasted a year. So it didn't last, but I actually did not know that until I looked it up. So, okay. You can pull out some names here. Do you know who all turned down the role of Lloyd? Did you know any actors who turned down the role of Lloyd? There's a couple of them. Some big name actors turned down. They actually were offered the role.
Rob Lowe was one of them, wasn't he?
He's not on my list here, but it's possible.
Maybe he was offered Harry. I don't know.
There's some pretty big comedy
yeah, they
actors.
were. I know they wanted the Coreys to do it. Corey Haim and Corey, the two guys who were very popular in the 80s.
Okay.
Who else was there? Now, there were a big list of people because they were really trying to pin down that Lloyd character before they did the Harry one. I don't know. I'm not.
One of them, I'll give you a hint. Michael references it as being the worst day ever when this person dies.
Oh, okay. Steve Martin?
Yep, Steve Martin. He turned down the role. Martin Short also turned it down, as well as Ben Stiller. But Ben
Stiller makes sense to me because he's like similar age as Jim Carrey, but the other two are like older.
They are. Yeah.
More from the 70s, 80s era.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and Ben Stiller went on to work with the Farley brothers, and There's Something About Mary. Which, have you seen that one? Do you care for that one?
Unfortunately, have, and I don't really care for it.
Not a fan about that one either.
No,
employs a lot of gross out humor too.
Yeah, they're really big on that gross out humor. Are they related to Chris Farley at all?
I don't know.
I don't think it's. That up, but I never did. I don't think they're related to him. But
yeah, I don't think so. Oh, Chris Farley was also considered for the role. Forgot about that one for either Harry or Lloyd. I forget which one. I think it was for actually Harry. But yeah, there were certain parts of There's Something About Mary I liked. Matt Dillon? His character. There were certain moments, some moments I liked, but yeah, it's a lot of gross out humor in that one. If you thought Dumb and Dumber was gross out humor, they take it to a whole new level with There's Something About Mary.
Yeah, I'm just not really into that whole, like I said with Shrek, I'm not into that whole toilet humor thing where it's like trying to gross you out or trying to be disgusting. To me, it's just that's not funny.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more into the British humor.
Mm-hmm. That British humor. So funny. Yeah, that's honestly that's all I had. Besides, yeah, how Jeff Daniels was tried to people tried to convince him not to make the movie, and this by 1994, this was his most successful movie.
Yeah.
Successful movie.
Which says a lot about him.
But he's a good man. He's a good dramatic actor though too. Like I said, he
He
did
is, but
movies
he's always
before
kind of
this.
like that secondary guy, like he's in Speed. He's not the main guy though. He's
He
the
was in
guy who gets
Gettysburg.
killed. Yeah, he's to me he's always been more of a side. He's like a great supporting actor, not really a leading man actor.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the ones who actually got out of Hollywood to raise his family, if I'm correct.
Okay.
I could be wrong
Wouldn't
on
surprise
that,
me.
To me, there's just a lot of actors who they move away from that area because they don't want to live there. They don't want to raise their family there. And to me, that kind of says a lot about Hollywood in general. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I have my issues with Hollywood, and I'm glad I didn't end up out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just hard. It's just this giant creepy machine.
It's cutthroat.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's just like the stuff that people know goes on that they reference in movies and stuff like that all the time. And the fact that it's just so obvious. We'll talk more. There's certain things that they do. Like they're very racist, like clearly racist. We'll talk about that during the Batman movie.
Okay.
That I can't really stand the way that they handle. And then there's all the sex and drugs and stuff that goes on and questionable. Too many children stars have come out and said stuff. And I remember when one child star came out, the guy who came out and accused, what was his name? Kevin Spacey. When that guy came out, Anthony Rupp, I think is his name, when he accused Kevin Spacey of having done stuff to him, then Kevin Spacey started, being investigated and things. Another child actor said, "Hey, man, that's just the price of becoming famous in Hollywood." It was like,
wow.
dude,
not,
no, that's so wrong. And that guy's been blacklisted by so many people now. There was a revival of the one series he was on, and he wasn't invited back to be in it. They literally killed off his character. Like they had another actor portray his character and killed him off on screen. That's how much that actor has been lambasted for having said that. But the reality is he's probably some level of truth behind him saying that, which is what's disturbing about Hollywood to me. So, I mean, I'm glad I'm not out there. It's just but I struggle because, I love movies. And I love film, and I don't want to believe that everyone is wrapped up in some type of weird, evil thing like that, but I do know that it is a thing that exists. And this is just a really random rant at the end of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I mean, we're still only at 53 minutes, so we're doing good on time. I think
we're doing good on time. It's not about time, but it's just
yeah. Well, that's Dumb and Dumber. What do you guys think? Do you side with Mark? This is a just flat out stupid comedy with insanely unlikable characters that have no point? Or do you side with me that this movie actually has heart? It has that emotional pull, and these are lovable pals, and the humor is actually funny.
Well. It hasn't aged well. That would be my main argument.
Hasn't aged well.
Yeah,
it's just from a humor standpoint, the politically incorrect things they do.
No, maybe partially the politically incorrect, but to me, the cringy way he's pursuing that girl and that type of stuff is just, I don't know. It's overkill to me. It's too much.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So this may be the first movie this season where we have completely 180 disagreed on a movie, because at least with the other ones, I think we've met in the middle and a lot of times.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's completely 180. So this, if you guys are waiting for an episode where we completely disagree about a movie, here it is, because there is almost no give here on either side. So
nope.
People will be able to voice their comments if they so choose. I know one of our listeners, Barb, this is one of her favorite comedies. So Julie,
I don't say Julie hates it. Right?
Julie,
did she say loathe on the thing last night?
Wasn't Dumb and Dumber she was talking about. She was talking about Fast and Furious. Yeah, she does not like Fast and Furious movies.
Does not like Fast and Furious.
I can't imagine that she likes Dumb and Dumber. I highly doubt it, but yeah, I know it's one of Barb's favorite comedies. So yeah.
Alrighty.
Well, we will see you next week for pulling it up.
Twilight.
Oh gosh, Twilight. Well, we're reaching for the bottom of the barrel, folks. So get ready, because
I think I'm going to make a really good argument for the pro on this, and you're not going to be able to fight back on it.
We'll have to see about that, because we're reaching low here, folks.
Reaching low.
Twilight.
Oh,
gosh. Well, we can look forward to that, folks. Look forward to Twilight next week. We will catch you then. Thanks again for listening to us and watching, and appreciate your support. And yeah, we will see you next week, and stay cool.
Stay cool.
Thanks for watching this episode of Buddy Movies. If you like what you saw, you can click up here for more episodes. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to get the access to all of our latest episodes. And if you really like what you see, you can support us on patreon.com/buddymovies. Thanks for watching, and stay cool.